The wrestling world just witnessed something absolutely explosive that nobody saw coming, and it's sending shockwaves through the entire WWE universe. CM Punk, the man who has never bowed down to anyone, the rebel who does things his own way, has just made a move that's going to change everything we thought we knew about loyalty, alliances, and what it means to survive in the most brutal match in wrestling history. If you thought you'd seen it all in WWE, think again, because what went down on Monday Night Raw is about to flip the script on everything. And if you're not already subscribed to our channel, hit that button right now, because you don't want to miss a single second of what's coming next in this incredible saga. The tension was electric from the moment the show kicked off, and everyone knew something big was brewing. CM Punk walked out to that arena with a look in his eyes that told you he meant business. This wasn't the cocky, sarcastic Punk we've seen toy with his opponents before. This was a man who understood the gravity of what he was about to face. War Games isn't just another match. It's not another pay-per-view spectacle where you can afford to underestimate your opponents. This is the kind of match that ends careers, the kind of match that leaves permanent scars, the kind of match where 5 men enter a steel cage and only the strongest survive. Punk stood in that ring, and he didn't waste time with pleasantries or long-winded speeches. He cut straight to the chase and admitted something that probably cost him every ounce of pride he had. He needs help. He needs someone who can match the sheer force and brutality that's waiting for him inside those unforgiving steel walls. The crowd was hanging on every single word because they knew what was coming before Punk even said it. You could feel the anticipation building with every passing second. Punk talked about his team, about the men he's gathered to stand beside him, and while they're talented and they're hungry, he knows they're walking into a war against some of the most dangerous individuals in WWE today. His opponents aren't just skilled wrestlers. They're calculated destroyers who have made careers out of dismantling anyone who stands in their way. Punk needs someone who's been there before, someone who knows what it's like to carry the weight of an entire faction on their shoulders, someone who understands that War Games isn't won with fancy moves and high spots, but with raw power, strategic brilliance, and an unbreakable will to dominate. Then Punk said the name that made the entire arena lose their minds. Roman Reigns, the tribal chief, the head of the table, the man who has held WWE in an iron grip for years. The same Roman Reigns who has crushed legends, humiliated champions, and built an empire on the broken dreams of everyone who dared challenge him. Punk asking for Roman's help isn't just shocking, it's borderline unthinkable. These are 2 men who have never seen eye to eye, 2 men whose egos are bigger than the stadiums they perform in, 2 men who have always walked their own paths without needing or wanting anyone else. But here was Punk, swallowing every ounce of that legendary pride, admitting that he needs the one man who might actually be able to turn the tide in his favor. The question on everyone's mind was simple but loaded with possibilities. Would Roman even consider it? Would the tribal chief lower himself to help someone like CM Punk, someone who has openly criticized the way Roman operates, someone who has questioned his methods and his reign? Roman Reigns doesn't do favors. He doesn't form alliances out of the goodness of his heart. Everything Roman does is calculated, everything serves a purpose, and everything ultimately benefits the tribal chief first and foremost. If Roman was going to agree to this, there would be conditions, there would be demands, and there would be a price to pay that Punk might not be ready to accept. The show went to commercial, and when it came back, the atmosphere had completely shifted. The lights dimmed and that unmistakable music hit. The entire building erupted, because walking down that ramp with all the confidence and authority of a man who owns everything he surveys was Roman Reigns himself. He didn't rush. He never rushes. Roman takes his time because he knows everyone is waiting on him, hanging on his every movement, desperate to know what he's thinking. He entered that ring and stood face to face with CM Punk, and the tension between them was so thick you could cut it with a knife. These 2 alpha males, these 2 larger-than-life personalities, standing inches apart, neither one willing to blink first, neither one willing to show even a hint of weakness. Roman didn't immediately answer Punk's request. Instead, he let the silence hang there, let Punk squirm just a little bit, let everyone watching wonder if he was about to reject the whole idea and walk away. Roman talked about respect, about what it means to be at the top of this industry, about the sacrifices he's made and the battles he's fought to get where he is today. He reminded everyone that he's not just some hired gun you call when things get tough. He's the tribal chief, and his help doesn't come cheap. He looked Punk dead in the eyes and made it clear that if they're going to do this, if they're going to walk into War Games as a united front, then Punk needs to understand who's really in charge. Roman doesn't follow anyone. Roman leads, and everyone else falls in line or gets left behind. Punk listened to every word, and you could see the internal struggle written all over his face. This is a man who has built his entire career on being anti-authority, on refusing to bend the knee to anyone, on doing things his way no matter what the consequences. But he also knows that his chances of winning War Games without someone like Roman on his side are slim to none. His opponents are too strong, too organized, too dangerous. They've been preparing for this moment, and they're coming with everything they've got. Punk needs Roman, and as much as it kills him to admit it, he's willing to make whatever deal necessary to ensure his team walks out of that cage victorious. Roman laid out his terms, and they were exactly what you'd expect from the tribal chief. He'll join Punk's team, but he's not doing it as a favor or out of some sense of camaraderie. Roman made it crystal clear that when they step into War Games, everyone follows his lead, his strategies, his calls, his game plan. Punk can have his moment of glory if they win, but make no mistake about who the real leader is going to be. Roman also made it clear that after War Games, whatever temporary alliance they formed ends the moment they step out of that cage. There's no friendship here, no long-term partnership. This is business, and once the business is concluded, they go back to being exactly what they've always been, two competitors who would love nothing more than to prove who's really the best. The crowd was absolutely going insane because this is the kind of moment that defines eras in wrestling. CM Punk and Roman Reigns on the same team, fighting side by side against a common enemy, is something nobody thought they'd ever see. The chemistry between them is volatile, unpredictable, and absolutely electric. You don't know if they're going to work together seamlessly or if their egos are going to clash at the worst possible moment. That uncertainty is what makes this so incredibly compelling. War Games just became appointment television because everyone needs to see how this plays out. Punk extended his hand, and for a moment it looked like Roman might refuse it, might just turn and walk away, leaving Punk to figure things out on his own. But then Roman took that hand and shook it, sealing the deal right there in the middle of the ring. The place went absolutely ballistic. Two of the biggest names in wrestling, two men who represent completely different philosophies and approaches to this business, joining forces for one night to achieve mutual destruction of their enemies. It's the kind of story that transcends wrestling and becomes something people will talk about for years to come. But the show wasn't over yet, because Punk and Roman's opponents weren't about to let this moment go unchallenged. The screen lit up and there they were, the men who have been terrorizing Monday Night Raw for months, the faction that has left a trail of broken bodies and shattered dreams in their wake. They looked furious, and rightfully so, because they just watched their advantage disappear. They thought they had Punk cornered, thought they were going to walk into War Games and systematically dismantle his team one by one. Now they're facing a completely different scenario. Now they're facing CM Punk, who's already one of the most dangerous men in WWE, backed up by Roman Reigns, who might just be the single most dominant force in the entire company. The leader of the opposing faction got on the microphone and tried to play it cool, but you could hear the concern in his voice. He tried to act like Roman joining Punk's team doesn't change anything, like they're still going to walk into War Games and walk out victorious. But his words rang hollow, because everyone knows that adding Roman Reigns to any equation changes everything. Roman isn't just another team member. He's a game changer, a difference maker, the kind of competitor who can single-handedly turn the tide of an entire match. The opposing faction knows they just went from having a comfortable advantage to being in a fight for their lives. The stare down between both teams was intense beyond belief. On one side you had CM Punk and Roman Reigns, two men who probably trust each other about as far as they can throw each other, but who are willing to set aside their differences for one night to achieve victory. On the other side you had a unified faction that has been working together for months, that knows each other's strengths and weaknesses, that has been building toward this moment with singular focus. The clash of styles, the clash of personalities, the clash of egos is going to be absolutely spectacular. War Games has always been about chaos and brutality, but this year it's going to be something else entirely. Social media exploded immediately after the show went off the air. Fans couldn't believe what they just witnessed. Wrestling journalists were scrambling to analyze every possible angle, every potential outcome, every way this could possibly go. Some people think Roman is going to betray Punk at the worst possible moment, that he's playing the long game and setting up Punk for an even bigger fall down the line. Others believe that Roman genuinely sees value in taking down their common enemies first before worrying about his rivalry with Punk. There are even theories that this is all part of some master plan orchestrated by higher powers in WWE, that forces are moving behind the scenes to set up an even bigger storyline that nobody sees coming yet. What makes this so compelling is that you genuinely don't know what's going to happen. WWE has done an incredible job of building uncertainty into this story. Roman could be playing it straight, genuinely committing to helping Punk win War Games before they go their separate ways. Or Roman could be planning something devious, waiting for the perfect moment to turn on Punk when it would hurt the most, when Punk is most vulnerable, when the stakes are at their absolute highest. Punk has to be aware of these possibilities. He's not stupid. He knows that trusting Roman Reigns is like trusting a shark not to bite. But he's also smart enough to know that sometimes you need a shark on your side, even if you're constantly watching your back. The road to War Games just became exponentially more interesting. Every week leading up to the event is going to be must-watch television, because you need to see how this partnership develops or falls apart. You need to see if Punk and Roman can actually coexist, or if their egos are going to destroy everything before they even make it to the match. You need to see how their opponents respond, what strategies they're going to employ, what tricks they have up their sleeves to try and drive a wedge between Punk and Roman before War Games even begins. The psychological warfare is going to be off the charts. Training segments are going to be fascinating, because watching Punk and Roman try to work together, try to develop chemistry, try to trust each other enough to function as a unit is going to be television gold. These are two men who are used to being the center of attention, used to having things done their way, used to being the undisputed leaders of whatever group they're part of. Now they have to figure out how to share that spotlight, how to defer to each other when necessary, how to put aside their massive egos for the greater good of the team. It's going to be uncomfortable, it's going to be tense, and it's absolutely going to be compelling viewing. The rest of Punk's team is probably feeling a mix of relief and terror right now. Relief because they just added the most dominant wrestler of the modern era to their side, someone who gives them a legitimate chance at winning this match. Terror because now they have to deal with Roman Reigns and all the baggage that comes with him. They have to follow his orders, accept his leadership, and hope that he doesn't decide their individual contributions aren't valuable enough. Roman has a history of casting aside people he deems unworthy, and Punk's teammates are going to be walking on eggshells trying to prove they belong in the same ring as the tribal chief. The opposing faction is probably in crisis mode right now. They spent weeks, maybe months, preparing for a specific version of CM Punk's team. They studied tendencies, developed strategies, identified weaknesses they could exploit. All of that preparation just went out the window because Roman Reigns changes everything. They have to completely rework their game plan, figure out new approaches, find ways to neutralize the single biggest threat in WWE today. It's not an impossible task, but it's certainly a lot harder than what they were expecting. Their confidence just took a major hit, and in a match like War Games, confidence is everything. The match itself is going to be absolute chaos, and that's exactly what makes War Games so special. 2 rings, 1 massive steel cage, 10 gladiators locked inside with nowhere to run and nowhere to hide. The brutality is going to be off the charts. Bodies are going to be broken. Blood is going to be spilled. Careers might be altered forever. And somewhere in the middle of all that chaos, the uneasy alliance between CM Punk and Roman Reigns is either going to hold strong or it's going to implode in the most spectacular fashion imaginable. Either outcome is going to be absolutely riveting television. If you've been following WWE for any length of time, you know that these moments don't come around often. These are the stories that define generations, that people remember decades later when they talk about the greatest angles in wrestling history. CM Punk and Roman Reigns sharing a ring as teammates in War Games is legitimately historic. It doesn't matter how it ends, just the fact that it's happening at all is remarkable. Make sure you're subscribed to this channel because we're going to be covering every single development in this story from now until War Games, and you don't want to miss a single update on what promises to be one of the most incredible matches in WWE history.